Hey gang, I just want to talk to you a few minutes today about getting the best quality bear meat that you can get. It seems like a lot of people have had a bad experience with bear meat at one time or another. I know my first experience with bear meat was a roast that was so overcooked and so difficult to eat. And I was just a kid at the time, and I really didn't like bear meat at that point until I realized that there's a lot better way to take care of a bear and to cook bear meat. And today I'm just going to talk about the taking care of the bear and making sure that you do the best job you can of making sure that you have quality meat. And you know, if you post a picture of yourself with a bear on social media or anywhere these days, there's always going to be somebody who says something like, why would you shoot something you can't even eat? And it's just amazing to me that there's so many people out there who think that bear meat is bad to eat, or that that you can't eat it in some way or another. So I want to address the things that you can do, and there are some very specific things that you can do to make sure that you have really good quality bear meat. And the other thing is to think back through time and through the history of North America. Bear meat is one of the staples of the Native American people before Europeans even came to North America. They relished the bear meat. They needed the fat and the furs and so forth. And there was market hunters when the Europeans came in the 16 and 1700s. There was market hunters that actually shot bears and took them to market because the meat was very much in demand. And you think about people like Daniel Boone, who went through the Cumberland Gap, spent months in the woods, and did so by eating bear meat. Fort Boonesborough, one of the things that the hunters did was they went out and they tried to get bears because the fat, when it was rendered down, was so important to them, and also the bear meat was so important to them. And this country was founded largely on bear meat, and even the Lewis and Clark expedition, they relished the bears that they shot when they were going up the Missouri River and across the mountains to the Pacific coast. So there's a rich history of eating bear meat in North America. So why is this? Why do people have problems with bear meat? And the reality is, it's usually because the bear meat wasn't taken care of right after the bear was shot. I'll admit that it depends a lot on what the bear has been eating. There's one case where I shot a bear in the spring in northern Canada that I think it had been eating on like dead caribou or something like that, and carrion. As the ice and snow melted, this bear, it was not edible. But 99% of the time, the bears are very edible. And think about what we're feeding the bears when we're baiting them, where they're getting grains and sweets and things like that. And they've been eating berries and acorns and high-fat foods. In the spring, they're eating the greens that are just coming up. And so they have good tasting meat. They have good flesh that's not too grainy most of the time. Sometimes in the spring it's a little grainy, and I typically tend to put spring bears just into sausage and things like that. But I've also had spring bears that you put a roast in a slow cooker, or you grill the steaks, the rump steaks or loin steaks, and they're very, very good that way too. So it varies a lot, but in general, 90% of the time, bear meat is pretty good quality eating. So the most important thing to always keep in mind is that most people start out as deer hunters, and then when they decide to go bear hunting, they don't realize that you need to treat a bear a lot differently than you do a deer. You can shoot a deer and you can hang it for a week and let it age, and typically you're shooting the deer in the fall when it's colder, and you can leave them outside and you can take your time getting them processed and so forth. It's just not that way with bear meat, and part of it is because we're hunting in the spring and fall, early fall. We're talking basically May and June and August and September for bear hunting, and it typically is warm weather. And then also the bears, you have to remember, they've got a really thick fur, much thicker than a deer, and they've got a thick layer of fat on them most of the time. and their bodies are bulky and not as narrow. It just takes a long time for those bears to cool off. So that's the biggest key, is get that bear cooled off as soon as possible. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can take care of your bear, and one of those is just simply to gut the bear and get it back to where you can get it skinned out. Some people, if the weather's not too warm, will just put bags of ice inside the bear's body cavity and take care of it in the morning so they can get pictures in the daylight and stuff like that, because of course most of the time bears are shot in the last few hours of daylight during the day and aren't recovered till after dark more often than not. But for me personally, what I like to do is get it skinned right away, and I like to just get the bear hauled back to camp or wherever I'm at, to my house or whatever, and just get the skin off of it. I don't even gut them. I just get the skin off of it, and then I take the shoulders off of it, and I take the hindquarters off of it, and then the loins, and then I just discard the remaining bones and carcass with the guts still in it. So that's the simple and fastest way to do it. And then you can take those quarters and the meat and just put them in the freezer, and I like to lay them across the bottom of the freezer, spread them out, don't stack them up. It takes too long for them to cool off, and they'll freeze quickly. They'll start to freeze overnight, and within 24 hours the smaller pieces will be frozen through, and then you can kind of pile them up and make room for more bears or whatever you need to. But it's so important to get the meat cooled down, because it'll spoil quickly. And I've had a couple of times when I shot a bear that I thought, I wasn't 100% certain of the shot, so I went back in the morning to recover the bear, and the bear was just not good quality eating. In fact, it was partially spoiled. So I always try to get the bear out. If you know the bear is dead, go get it. Okay, if it was a good shot, and even if you're having trouble finding it, I don't care if it's midnight when I go out to bring a bear out, I'm gonna get that bear in, get it cooled off, and get it quartered up as soon as possible so that meat can cool down. That's so important to get high quality meat in your freezer. Another important factor to understand in having good quality eating from a black bear is that the meat tends to go out of condition more quickly than some other kinds of meat when it's in the freezer. Typically, if it's made into sausage or something like that, it'll last quite a while. But just roasts and steaks and things like that, they tend to lose their freshness and their condition within 5, 6, 7 months in the freezer. So while you might leave beef or pork or deer meat in a freezer for a year or more, typically that's just not an option for bears, because it just goes out of condition much more quickly. So when I got a bear in the freezer, I usually try to get it all eaten up within the first 5 or 6 months. I should mention something about bear fat as well. A lot of bears have a nice thick layer of fat across their back and their rump, and that fat is fantastic. If you want to keep it, you can render it down, and it makes really good cooking oil. It's a favorite for a lot of people who use, I call it the Crisco from the wild. And if you make pie crusts and anything that you would use, Crisco for, then you can use bear fat for. And some people say it makes the best pie crust and the best biscuits and all that type of thing. I don't do much of that. I probably should do more and learn more about it. I got friends who just really love it, and I say more power to them. It's another way to just take sustenance from the wild. One of the reasons why bear meat has been so sought after throughout history is because of the fat content, and it has more fat in the meat than other wild game. The fat within the bear's meat is a sweeter fat. It's more like a beef or a pork than it would be like a deer. So that's another advantage to the taste and why people like bear meat. Anyway, I'd be happy to hear your comments on this. Leave a comment in the comment section below, and just keep in mind that I'm giving you some ammunition, I guess, to use when there are people out there who just think that bear hunting is wrong, or for some reason because we don't use the meat, and don't realize that bear meat is, for a lot of people, it's their favorite wild game meat, their favorite meat of all. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.